How exactly must you juggle in Split 3? They've had a lot of changes to the game, the champions and the items, and sometimes it's not really easy to understand where exactly is the 1v9 jungling. And which champion should I use? Well, what if I told you it doesn't matter what champion you use, and there's always a champion that best represents the meta and everything you need to do from the jungle in order to actually carry, win, and climb. And as we shift on over to the first clears, you'll see, yeah, the hidden OP TEEMO jungle is exactly him. Don't worry, this entire video will be applied to whatever jungle you play. I will speak exactly that way while explaining also why TEEMO jungle is so damn strong and more of you should actually play him.
Satan rises!
And as you will note, we'll go through a few TEEMO mechanics about why it's strong just before we get into the jungle theory, but his clears are simply healthy. His Q blind duration, you know, the thing we all hate, yeah, that's doubled on jungle camps. You also have the Zyra tap mechanic where you can just let camps burn down with poison as well as pet damage. But mostly there are two different styles that we can use, and we'll talk about those as we go through the game. And here's the first benefit of TEEMO. Yeah, he's healthy and has a lot of PvP damage, movement speed, the blind, the poison, but because of this, he is slower. But a slower clear really can provide a unique perspective on your jungle pathing. For example, here we start rapidly path down, right? The enemy jungler, the Kindred or whatever it might be, paths the other direction. You know that around 4 minutes, 405, 355, depending on what champion you play, those raptors are gonna respawn. But because you show so late on your bottom lane gank here, nicely done by the way, F key finish clear, we get the bottom scuttle, the enemy jungler doesn't quite know what you're doing and also has a little bit of that, what does TEEMO jungle actually do? Do they beat me? Do they clear first? You got the hidden power of unknown pathing. Unknown damage, unknown everything, and that's a really great thing as a jungler to understand. Always look to mislead the enemy, no matter what you're playing. Mislead your pathing, mislead your intent, mislead your actions, and then surprise them like the Kool-Aid through the wall with your actual jungling prowess. And if you like a bit of prowess, head to Virkayu.gg. Not only do I have a free jungle improvement resource, I also have a dedicated program with jungle video courses, jungle coaching, coaching classes, a jungle VOD library, special weekly content you'll see nowhere else. All of this available through a premium jungle Discord, which is highly active, a huge community that help each other climb using my jungle program and courses. As we have seen by everybody hitting their peak rank goals in Split 1 and Split 2 of Season 14 as fast as possible. So to climb faster than everybody you know and to jungle diff every game you play, head to Virkayu.gg or click the link in the description below. Now, as we go back to base and buy, huge purchase, and we get the Blasting Wand, it is important to note on whatever champion you play, which build variation are you going and why. In TEEMO's case, there's two builds, right? The more auto-attack reliant build, really good to go if you want to auto-attack more frequently. If you want to go in for a gank like this where you just, have a good angle of approach, you press your W for some movement speed, the Ares is a passive thing that just does the poison dart, and then a Q does the blind. Obviously, breaking stealth also amplifies your auto-attack speed, but overall here, it's a pretty straightforward gank, great angle, easy blind, keep your auto spacing, and you're good to go. That's why we like the PTA into the Nash's Tooth, just to really focus on your auto attack, dueling ability, and reliance. Now, in this particular game, we know the Kindred started bottom side, sequence up, base most likely did it again. Here you see the TEEMO having a bit of a negative pathing habit. We know the Kindred now will try and collapse in on us on the Raptors because we tracked our numbers, right? 24 gank bot lane, 28 on the scuttle, go back to the base, do the Krugs, gank top lane, and now we're gonna go back into a jungle for the Raptors. Kindred sets a good trap, and unfortunately for them, it's a TEEMO. So we've got flash, we have movement speed, and we can escape. Give up the Raptors if they're contested and you have no help. Please, any jungler who's doing this, there's no reason to die for Kentucky Fried Chicken over here. Just leave and go to the bottom side of the map. Yes, you might be giving up some grub prior, considering Kindred will fall back to that blue side quadrant afterwards, but that is a-okay. Remember, our goal is to get 6, even if our shrooms aren't necessarily a power curve, especially in this build, because we can just leave our shrooms on top of camps to check when they spawn, especially for the enemy. We can also just use it for tracking and slap it in places we think the jungler might path. But you're not looking to necessarily be too AFK. You do want to control the map using your mobility and auto attack annoyance, I guess, especially with the shrooms. And as you can see, regular jungling decisions are really easy to make with TEEMO. We finish the second rotation, we go into the dragon, we get 6. Now, if you're whatever jungler with a great level 6, yeah, go gank bot lane, use it, maximize your gold income. Here, we don't really have to. It's a freebie, so we walk on down, we smash away some kills again, pressing like the 2 buttons we can press, and then we fall back to the Scuttle Crab. And we know that the Kindred here has done the grubs and not done the tap quadra because you can track the CS, right? Each grub counts for 2, by the way, so it's a total of 6. You see Kindred on the top side here, and again, good jungling principles. Yeah, my red's gonna be respawning. Sure, my red side camps will be up in a little bit, but their camps are gonna be up too, and I'm down down here and I can snowball the bottom lane. That's probably a good idea considering Corki is disgustingly broken right now. Now what I love about this kind of play that we go for here is that the red buff, yeah, that's the obvious thing people want, but the Krugs have more value for us in experience and gold combined. So we want to take those away because we also want to surprise the bottom laner again with a cheeky gank. Now here's the thing, Kindred died on the top side, so while you see a shroom usage, we see the Pantheon commit as well. We're trying to best control the scenario by killing the Corki and getting out. The Kindred will respawn and rotate directly. So have that internal clock when you see the Kindred respawn, you know you got about 20 seconds to get in and get out. It is a powerful goon squad, and of course Rel shows up and gets a kill, so as long as Kindred doesn't get them other than one, honestly not the worst switcheroo. We're 5-1-0, and we're gonna come out of base with the Nash's Tooth. Now of course we can then flex into things like Leandries, we can still buy Malignance if we want it, but the Malignance rush is really more of the Dark Harvest Shroom field, you know, when you want to lay down the Vietnam War across your entire map. That's a great way to play if you want obscene map control and you're not looking to necessarily auto-attack enemy champions, invade as much. You really just want to be disruptive as much as possible. But in this particular case, I prefer recommending the Nashes and PTA because you can do more regular jungling, and with the atomization, your shrooms are going to still do an absolute hell of a lot of damage, and you're still going to get the pop damage and the vision control anyway. It's more just about having those really do a lot more damage and be more useful for those objective secures. But from a regular jungling perspective, you can see why this works so damn well already. And yes, that's because when you come out of base for your third rotation clear after already securing an objective and having the enemy jungler also secure one, we need to try and create spacing, right? We need to try and get away from them and figure out which lane is our win condition. And as you can see, the TEEMO sequence is all the way down because there's nothing we could do before we started sequencing. There's nothing we could do after finishing the red side quadrant. And basically, we didn't want to risk anything unnecessarily for the lead we have. And when you have a great rhythmic pathing like this and you're getting fed through all the great decisions you're making, you're going to have an extra gank in the bottom lane because again we're snowballing that lane. But remember, your ADC is 0-1-6 and you have all the kills, so they're nowhere near as fed as you might think. Here again we use our flash, all you need is your speed up and your Q and then your auto attacks, your PTA is going to proc. The Kindred on the other hand is really a little bit like, I don't know exactly where to go here, and because we had the bit of pathing and we're forcing the Kindred to follow us around the map, the TEEMO is getting more fed. Again, I want you to understand this, a Kindred is being out-tempoed and out-map controlled by a TEEMO jungle because it adheres to all the steps of fundamental carry jungling that anybody can replicate with their chosen champion, unless of course you clear astronomically slow and unhealthily, in which case don't play that champion. And of course, for all junglers, when you have itemization advantage, gold lead, experience lead, and you are just positioning yourself to contest everything now because you can, look at this, the Kindred is forced to back away. They don't have itemization, TEEMO does. Oh look, top lane is a prime gankable real estate market. Unfortunately, Pantheon outs out, so we lose escrow, but that's okay because now we can go and take the grubs and reinvest it elsewhere. Drop a shroom for protection, and now you have the numbers advantage, right? You create a pride top lane there with that gank. Kindred's team can no longer drop in some luscious man thighs to contest this, and again, TEEMO has that huge itemization advantage at this stage. However, that doesn't stop a lot of teams, especially when the Kindred's doing an okay job, you know, from being brave. So they go in, they try and get something casted and goes over the wall. The enemy team manages to make some roast beef, and you just simply walk away to the top side. Why? Because you know, once they've killed that and created that river entrance prio, they will go right ahead and steal your Raptors. So what you do is you say, look, Raptors are gone, it's a tax write-off, go ahead and do your Krugs, and then loop around the outside, safe pathing just in case of cringeness, and then go to the bottom quadrant. This is how you path safely, even if you have a lead. Do not be brazen, do not overcommit, do not give shutdowns. Simply take what the map gives you patiently and move on to the next thing. We gave up the first grub so we could get the first dragon. We tempoed so that we could actually contest and take the second grubs. We managed to deny the full might snack, but now we are worried about the second dragon, right? And that's why having rhythmic sequencing and understanding what you can take and what you cannot is basically the ultimate jungle understanding. We know that if the Kindred decided to try and contest this, we do have a winning bot lane and a useless Inting Corki. Eventually the Corki is going to become very, very scary. That champion is really overbuffed, but I don't think it's going to matter. And Kindred then decides to cut up and gank for the Pantheon again, which gives us a free dragon. Now, of course, the same thing is going to happen again as earlier. You know, Kindred's going to reset, go back to base and try and counter gank his bottom side. So what you got to do is make sure if you're going to gank this bottom lane, you get it done quickly and efficiently. Unfortunately, in this case, we bite off a little bit more than we can chew, and the Kindred's team is able to actually respond and get all the shutdowns. Now, this is something we can absolutely live with because, again, we're still fed, but it's not something you necessarily want to happen. However, it's good to have this happen in this game. That's why I'm showing it to you, so you can see, okay, look, we've done a great job. but maybe we have a few mistakes here. How do we then recover when we have a big lead and we give the enemy a few snacks, a few nibbles, and maybe give them hope that they think, oh look, we can win now. The biggest lesson here, the biggest step here is having that confidence in what you can accomplish with your champion at given break-even points and itemization and experience. When this happens to me in this kind of game of my champions, I'm like, oh man, that was dumb. Anyway, so what's next for us to win this game? You don't really flutter. You don't really think, oh no, the game is doomed. If you do, that's not good. You're probably dying too much for your team. You're probably dying too much for yourself, and you're not putting yourself in a position to control. All of this can be summarized in I am the jungler and I have control. That starts with understanding that at this point, 14-15 minutes, your sequencing is going to be really quick. You're going to have a big amount of downtime between all of your camps respawning. That's when you invest that in good intelligent skirmishes. That is when you invest that in trying to get bodies and shrooms all over the place so that you can get heralds. We're speeding this up so you can see it. The Kindred's team does a good job of kind of pushing off the red team. TEEMO keeps his distance. He doesn't overcommit now. We're poking, we're putting shrooms down. All that matters for us here is damage, HP war, and then obviously falling back to the herald. HP war is one of my more important concepts that I talk about, because if you chunk 90% of the HP from say 3 targets, if they want to contest, they will die. So you don't need to overly chase them to get kills. We don't need to be the LEC or LCS at Worlds. We can just fall back to the objective and the camps and relax. Hey, I chunked all your HP, you have to go base? Cool, I get all the stuff now. Whereas if you chase, it can go badly, or even if you get the kills, you don't get any objectives or turrets or anything of consequence. Thus, being fed is great and stacking up to 25 kills is great, but I much prefer here having my 10 kills, 7 kills, whatever kills, be a threat. I will check your HP, you have to walk away, I get everything. Now this goes both ways, right? You'll see we do the sequence down, we want to go for the next dragon. Again, another skirmish happens. Here, watch the positioning of everybody. Positioning in teamfights and target selections is most important. When you're playing a TEEMO like this, who you choose to blind is critical. Where you space is critical. Using your movement speed to move around is very, very important. And obviously, where you play shrooms for vision control and annihilation absolutely matters when it comes to these moments. Most importantly, the Kindred mispositions and dies. The TEEMO, even if we are not necessarily winning these fights with our lead, doesn't. That means you can base, heal, buy, head straight back for the dragon, snack it up, control whatever camps you have. You still have the Herald active, mid-tier 1 is still open. You can now move with your team as people start to shift around, get some deep shrooms, get some deep vision, activate the Herald, and then have another team fight. And at this point, we do have the Malignants. Normally the Leandries is really, really great, but if you're having a system where you can't actually fight that much and your shrooms are going to be more useful, you can swap into this. And you'll see here that the TEEMO actually positions a little aggressively on the side, places a shroom in the bush. Their team are not disrupting. The TEEMO acts as an interference. No one is going in while my team is dealing with, say, the Pantheon, and I can blind the Kindred, so the Kindred's now suffering in the backline, not able to dish out any DPS. Obviously, watch your HP bar, watch your positioning. You can misposition and die, flash out if you have to, and protect yourself. A really good example of not the classical team fighting you might expect from a TEEMO, but great positioning, great shroom usage, and created that separation such that your team could actually win. Now remember what I said, the HP war, that is very important, but likewise, killing people is also pretty important here. So once they are dead, take away their camps from their own jungle, push waves up, leave an army of shrooms as you fall back to your jungle. Again, you're not going to be able to always get objectives and turrets from these kinds of plays, but you can't deny them huge amounts of experience and gold, extend vision lines, and organize the map in a great way such that whatever jungler you're playing in this mid to late game phase, you have the best opportunity to win the next fight again, and that's the one that you're then going to swap into your regular game winning souls, elders, and barons. And as you can see, what this allows you to do is base and buy. We can go into the Leandries next. We're going to take our quadrant here, and because we have such a great vision line from pushing up the waves, leaving shrooms in vision, which a lot of supports, they don't do this, your shrooms will allow this, and that's a really useful thing here. You can then move into the side of the jungle where they are not. When you have someone split pushing and they try and go all in against your split pusher, you are there to contest, you are there to collapse, you are there to pick up that kill. This is actually one of my most favorite macro plays to make no matter what champion I'm playing. I love to shadow the split pusher opposite to the Baron because I've previously won a fight and set up great vision lines. They cannot just walk in and do the Baron. It's not a free thing. They have to consider where you are, what you're doing, the fog of war. All of a sudden you show up and kill their split pusher on the bottom side. They don't have enough time to move into the Baron pit, snack it away, steal it, and if you get this wrong, they of course will take the Baron, so you do have to think about this as a jungler. But because they have no camps to take, they can't force this, you have time to move around the map and shadow your team, play some more shrooms, clear some camps, finish your third item, and that's really where you kind of want to punch this game and end it if you're especially trying to 1v9 games. I mean, we can talk about how our team are performing okay, but Kassadin's 1-1-1 for goodness sake, and Oriana's 5-0-1. She's also almost Flame Horizoned him, and we haven't focused on them at all. We're only focusing on the TEEMO, like in this team fight. And I will say, while this is definitely not clean and we die, notice the shrooms, tick, tick, boom, that's 3 kills for us. The lesson here is even if your team are not playing the best and you are truly the champion trying to actually 1v9 the game, as long as you are getting more killed than they are, you should always have the ability to say, okay, look, this wasn't our best fight, but we didn't lose anything and they didn't gain anything. If anything, you as an individual got more than anybody else. So the next team fight, you're stronger. Do it again, next team fight, you're even stronger. And now the real next important thing for me, the most important thing really, is this sole point. Do not overtly commit yourself to a bad fight again. Do not die again and sure you're off to the side. You have your shrooms, whatever your champion does, zone as best you can, poke as best you can. If your team needs you to go all in, you can ace them at end, by all means. But if it's looking like, okay, well, they've got it under control, get the soul, they'll get live stats boost in fight, and then you can turn and kill everybody else and get the Baron. And not, of course, shove it down, regular fights, and end the game the usual way. The whole point more so is just how anticlimactic does it feel if this were to be, say, a Worlds game. You're just winning fights, and you're maximizing fights, and you're getting all the objectives, and then you shove it down. In solo queue, you don't want coin flip team fights. You do not want to give the enemy an opportunity to win. You want it to be fun for you, but boring for the enemy jungler. And honestly, that should always be your goal. Make them feel useless, make them have no fun, and you're the one that's just killing everybody. And even in a lost team fight, you have confidence. You're like, oh man, I died. Shucks, well, at least I got 3 kills, and now I have your nexus. Of course, if you want to learn how to get nexuses in all the elos you play, this video will teach you how to be an architect of your own climb.